ॐ वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ओम श्री महागणपतये नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। अस्मद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम श्री मेधा दक्षिणामूर्ति स्वामिने नमः। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धदामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्ख्यपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तन्न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। नमस्ते everyone.
Namaste Guru. Pranam.
So we
Namaste Guruji.
Namaste. Namaste. On the 3rd of July, we celebrated Guru Purnima. And this is the first class after the Guru Purnima event. In fact, in the last Viveka Chudamani class, last Sunday, there was a suggestion from one student that I should render a talk on Guru Purnima. I thought about it, and I felt that in any case, in all these classes, we are talking about Guru and Guru Mahima. So a separate talk will not make much addition to what we are already learning. That's what I felt. Because Acharyas give such talks in public, because to inspire the general public, to come towards spirituality. So those talks are given, as a matter of course. Swami Paramathanandaji, even Swami Dayananda Saraswati, they all give such talks on special occasions. Guru Purnima, Puja Swamiji used to give a talk on the New Year Day, English calendar New Year Day and all that. But I thought that since we are a closed group, we are just a group of students, every class we are talking about Guru only. So there's no need for a special talk for that. Having said that, I feel we should start today's class remembering Vyasacharya to commemorate whose birthday Guru Purnima is celebrated. That we all know. Veda Vyasa is also called Vyasacharya. Okay. And there's a beautiful sloka. We will start with that. Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanideye Vasishtaya Namo Navaha. So with this sloka, we are offering our respects, our namaskarams to Vyasacharya, without whom we will not be here. These classes would not have been possible without the work of Vyasacharya. Why these classes? Any class these days, Bhagavatam also, which is most popular these days, is written by Vyasacharya only. So his contribution to Sanatana Dharma is immense, very profound contribution. And so, actually speaking, the first prayer we say, Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam, we can change that prayer. We can say, Sadashiva Samarambham Vyasa Shankarau Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Mande Guru Parampara. We can actually change that prayer also rather. And I think that it will not disturb the meter of that. So I have heard somebody say that one of the Acharyas say that somewhere long ago. I have forgotten it. So Vyasacharya also in the Guru Parampara is a very, very important link. Then of course comes Shankara. And there is always a question, people have, why should I go to a human being whom I call a guru and all that? I will have directly relationship with Ishvara, with Bhagawad. I'll go to the temple and all that, I'll do my prayer. Why do I need a guru? For that, Sant Kabir Das has written a very beautiful doha. Those who know this Sant Kabir ke dohe, very beautiful doha he writes. He says, Guru Gobind dou khade, kake lago paye, Balihari Guru aapno, jin Govind diyo bataye. It is in the local language, what Prakriti language or Pali, or I don't know exactly what language. But what he is saying is that if Guru and Bhagavan, Govind, stand before me, whose feet should I touch first? To whom should I actually do first namaskaram? Then in the second line he answers, I should do namaskaram to the Guru, because it is because of the Guru that I came to know that there is someone called Ishvara, Bhagavan or Govind. Guru is the one who has introduced me to Govind. That's why Guru is greater than even God. So, with these, sentiments, let us pay our respects to the Guru, to the entire Guru Parampara on this occasion of Guru Purnima, and continue with our class. Okay. So now, what we were seeing, 33rd sloka, we were seeing in the last class. Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakritir jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigrah kim karishyati. So in this sloka, Krishna points out a very, very important aspect, which is that everyone is born with a particular personality which predominantly determines the person's attitude and behavior. And he says, Jnanavanapi, even the Jnanis are governed by this. They are also born, because when they are born, they are not Jnanis. They are Ajnanis only. So they are also born with certain natural behavioral patterns, some gunas. And in the last class, we have seen the explanation of most of the words in this sloka. What was left was to understand what Krishna means by Nigraha Kim Karishyati. What can restraint do? Nigraha means restraint or suppression. We can take these meanings rather. And here the word Kim is used in a rhetoric sense. It's called in Sanskrit Aksheparte Kim. It is not a question. It means Nigraha Kim Karishyati means it is impossible to stop the nature of a person. You cannot change the basic nature with which a person is born. So Swami Paramathananda says, if a person like Arjuna goes to Rishikesh or Uttarakashi and becomes a monk, a sannyasi, given his leadership qualities, what he will do? He will assemble all the sannyasis, will form a Rishikesh Sannyasi Association, and will appoint one secretary, and he will start fighting with the government and say that sannyasis must be given at least 5% reservation in the parliament. So he will organize all these andolans, geraos, Dilli Chalo, and all that kind of a thing because of his dynamism. No one can stop him. That's why we find, there are people with different personalities. There are certain people, what they call a born leader. They actually have a, very good connect with the people. They are able to present themselves to the people and immediately become a leader of a group of people. Rather, people are prepared to listen to them. This is their inherent personality. Therefore, Krishna asks Arjuna, why are you trying to break away from your own nature, Arjuna? Your nature is to fight. And you are thinking of suppressing it and talking about running away from the battlefield and take sannyasa, etc. Therefore, Arjuna, accept your nature, accept your duty, and convert that duty into a karma yoga. Well, we must understand karma yoga does not depend upon the type of action. Karma yoga depends upon the type of attitude with which we do our actions. A Brahmana is a karma yogi when he performs his Brahmin duty as Ishwararpanam. Similarly, a Kshatriya is doing karma yoga when he is doing his Kshatriya duty as Ishwararpana. Even though a Brahmana's duty, in the temple, may be to do puja, offering flowers to a deity, etc., because he's a priest. A Kshatriya's duty may even involve killing people, rather, fighting with people, punishing people, killing people, etc. In fact, a Vaishya's duty may involve all kinds of dealings for business. Sometimes they may be actually at the border of dharma, adharma, division. But all of those duties can become worship if it is done with a karma yoga attitude, Ishwararpana attitude. The ninth chapter, Krishna will say, Yad karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhoshi, tadasi yad tapasyasi, kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. This is the basis for Ishwararpana Buddhi, Karma Yoga basis. Whatever you do, Yad Karoshi, Yad Ashnasi, whatever you eat, Yad Juhoshi, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities that you perform, whatever donation, dhanam that you give, do all that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me, Madarpanam. So here in the ninth chapter also, Krishna once again emphasizes one of the important aspects of Karma Yoga, which is Ishwararpana Bhava. Therefore, we must understand Karma Yoga does not depend upon the type of actions. Karma Yoga depends upon the type of attitude, irrespective of whatever is the action. So, having explained that everyone is born with a particular personality, Krishna continues to explain the relevance of this with respect to one's likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha. We will read the 34th sloka. Indriyasyendriyasyarte ragadveshau vyavastitau tayornavashamagachet tavasya paripantinau. Anvaya is indriyasya arte, indriyasya Ragadveshau vyavastitau tayoho vasham na agachet hi tau asya paripantinau. Indriyasya arthe. With reference to each and every object of every sense organ. Ragadveshau, attachment and aversion or likes and dislikes. Vyavastitau are there. Tayoho, of these two. Vasham, spell, control. Na, not. Agache, should come under. He, because tau, these two. Asya, once. Paripantinau, enemies. In short, what he's saying is there is attachment and aversion with reference to every sense object. May one not come under the spell of these two because they are one's enemies. Now, in this sloka, there is a one expression. The word indriyasya has been used twice in the beginning. So the repetition of the word indriyasya is an example of the language style used in Sanskrit. This is called a vipsa. They are very technical things in the language rather. Like, in English we say each and every, means what? Everyone, every single one of them. Okay. Here, the each and every also can be an example of, you can call it vipsa. So here, the first expression, indriyasya arthe, meaning with reference to an object, arthe of a given sense organ. Indriyasya, in other words, a sense object. So, by saying indriyasya arthe, the meaning conveyed is with reference to every sense object, or as I said, each and every sense object. The repetition conveys the meaning of every. Okay. It's just a technical point because otherwise, it looks like a repetition of the word which is misplaced rather. But then these are all, Sanskrit language is so beautiful. You go deep into it, there's so many things to learn rather. Now, the previous sloka where Krishna said that everybody is born with his personality, with a certain guna dictated by his vasanas. This can create a doubt in the mind of a student. Because he said, everyone acts according to his prakriti or swabhava. And he included a jnani also in that list. And he made a statement, nigraha kim karishyati, which can be little bit, disappointing. I mean, that means what? People will understand. Krishna is indirectly saying that one's swabhava cannot be controlled. So if every person has got a swabhava, and if that swabhava cannot be controlled, then it amounts to saying that we do not have any control over our nature, which is as good as saying that there is no such thing called free will. Therefore, if you don't understand the previous sloka properly, it will appear that that sloka negates the free will by indirectly saying that the swabhava cannot be controlled, or nigraha kim karishyati, trying to control swabhava is futile. So it's a statement which says that nothing can be done about it. And one author, in fact, Swamiji quotes that, he gives an example of an onion. onion has got, amongst of course other aspects, one basic swabhava, a particular pungent smell which nobody can remove, isn't it? I think, I don't remember, probably in few classes earlier we saw this example also. Anyhow, I'll just be brief. So a person wanted to change the swabhava of that onion. Onion is called phalanduhu in Sanskrit, called phalanduhu. There is a sloka which I am not able to recall now, but that example is given by that Acharya. So this person, he takes an onion, he takes a beautiful, a vessel, a container, and he fills it with all, karpura, all the aromatic stuff, vasana dravyams. And he keeps the onion in the middle of that. And then he applies on that onion kunkuma, kasturi, lekyam, all perfumes you can say. He also does long abhishekam with rose water, everything. Okay. So after doing all these things, after about an hour, he removed everything and took out the onion and smelt it. What did he find? The pungent smell of the onion could not be removed. One line of that sloka is Nija gunam munchati na phalanduhu. Something like that. That means you cannot change the nature of the onion. You can do anything with that. It won't change the nature. So Krishna seems to say here that we have all got some swabhava, some basic swabhava everyone has, and he says that swabhava cannot be controlled. Does it mean that we are condemned to our swabhava and we cannot transform ourselves? Krishna gives the answer to that in this sloka, which is very, very important. In this sloka only, actually, Krishna establishes free will in the case of a human being. Krishna says a human being has a control over himself, unlike the animal kingdom or plant kingdom. And actually, that is why, if you ask a layman, we all look down upon those jivas, isn't it? Animals, plants, etc., as inferior to us, because they have no method for working for their liberation. In our case, we can plan, we can work, we can correct, we can improve, we can accomplish. Isn't it? And how do we do that? This sloka is the answer. He says, Indriyasya arte indriyasya ragadveshau vyavastitau. What Krishna is saying here is that we all have got certain basic character, certain swabhava. And depending upon that swabhava alone, thoughts are generated in our mind. This swabhava will produce thoughts in the mind. And if those thoughts are continued in the mind and allowed to saturate, those saturated thoughts, those nourished thoughts, which get further converted into words, and later they will get converted into action. Thus, we have got three levels, whenever we are talking about our behavior. There are three levels. Swabhava to thought, thought to words, and words to action. So, swabhava hai vritti, vakya or vak, you can say. And finally, karma, action. Now, the thoughts generated by the Swabhava are based on what? He says, Raga Dveshau Vyavastitau. Because of your innate tendency, you divide the world into the like part and dislike part. And your Swabhava determines your likes and dislikes. So whenever we see some person saying, I like this, I don't like this, it is not an intellectual, well thought out statement. Most of the time, it is his nature. Some people like certain things, some people do not like certain things. I mean, even in a family, we can see, people have got different likings. And those likings also need not necessarily be the same. But they will all keep changing according to their personalities, their individual swabhavas. And this can be observed right from childhood. In fact, in some of these nursery schools and all that, I have seen this. In fact, when I went to a nursery school to admit my daughter, because she didn't study there subsequently, only 1 or 2 years probably she studied there. There, they try to find the nature of the child even at the time of admission to the nursery class. What they do, they put lot of things in a room. They have some books, some toys, some musical instruments, some sports things, and all that. Even, hammer, screwdriver, some plumbing, instruments and all, they will put everything in that room. And they will ask the child to go. In fact, they will allow many children to go inside. And then they will observe which child gets attracted to what. And also which child is getting distracted from something else. One is a Raga Vishaya, other is a Dvesha Vishaya. So this is how, they try to find this Obhava so that their teaching and handling of the child in the school can be managed rather. And that's why here Krishna says, Swabhava produces Raga Dvesha vrittis, thoughts, and we have no control over the arrival of Raga Dvesha vrittis. We have no control over the production of Raga Dvesha vrittis. Helplessly they surface in the mind. And we have observed this also. Whenever we go on a tour, suppose you go on a holiday to a hill station with the family, 4 or 5 of them are there. Each family member will find certain things attractive and certain things do not attract them. And this will differ from person to person rather. And especially, if you go on a group tour, you will observe this also. They take you in a bus and all that, they will stop in some place and they will say, you go around this place for 2 hours, come back to the same spot and we'll continue our tour. This is what the tour operators normally do. So when people get down of the bus, you will find some people going for sightseeing of that place. Some of them will rush to a different direction, to a restaurant, to see, whether they can get some Indian food or something there. Someone else may go to a jewelry shop which they sight and then say, oh, let me see what jewelry is there. Someone may go to a boutique to see what kind of dresses are there, but they are not interested in the sightseeing business. At least that particular site, they are not interested. And you will also find a person gets down from the bus, goes to a calm place, maybe under a tree or in a bench and all that, he will not go around anywhere. He will just sit there and, silently sit there. He will sit all alone. So all these kinds of behavior are based on one's personal likes and dislikes. So thus the Swabhava produces Raga, Dvesha, Vrittis. And Krishna says we cannot avoid that. In fact, we are all bundles of Raga, Dvesha. Raga, Dveshau, Vyavastitau. Vyavastitau means necessarily present. They are present as a rule without exception. And this is said in the first line of the sloka. Therefore, admittedly, we have no control over the production of thoughts in our mind, which are based on our likes and dislikes, which are driven by our swabhava, our nature, which again is determined by our vasanas. Then Krishna makes the most important observation in the second line. He says, while the arrival of the thoughts depend upon your swabhava, over which you have no control, but whether those thoughts should be allowed to continue or not, should you nourish that thought or not, should you support that thought or not, or should you intelligently divert your attention from that type of thought, is under your control. The arrival of the thought is not under my control. It is dependent upon my swabhava or prakriti. But the perpetuation of those thoughts is in my hands. And therefore, I have the free will to decide whether that thought should be encouraged or I should nip it in the bud itself. And he said that in the second chapter also, if you remember. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषूपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधो विजायते. The world enters my mind and produces the thought of anger, jealousy, attachment, love, or compassion. And the world enters and generates a particular thought. But whether I should encourage that thought or not is in my hand. This is the first control I have using my free will. And therefore, the second aspect and therefore what we have to understand is thought, whenever a thought occurs in our mind, the very first thought which occurs is not in our control. But then when it wants to turn into a second thought, third thought, fourth thought, the same thought repeating itself, stopping that process is in our control. So the first aspect is I have control over the thoughts using my free will. And the second aspect we must note is that it is those thoughts which are nourished, which are fed, they alone become stronger and stronger. And when they become stronger, those thoughts crystallize into words. I mean, whenever you are seeing a fight between two people, let us say, let us take the very common case, most popular, we are familiar, most of us are familiar with that, a fight between the spouses at home. You see your spouse doing something which you don't like. That first thought occurs in your mind that he or she is doing something which I don't like. Ragadveshau Vyavastitau. Then what happens? You have two choices now. Ignore it. Doesn't matter. He or she wants to do it, likes to do it, let them do it. The other thing is no. How can he or she do it? I don't like it, so it should not be done. So that thought you continue to nourish. You give fodder to that thought. And when it becomes stronger and stronger, it crystallizes into words, some angry words or words of saying, no, you should not do that. Why are you doing that? Are you an idiot? Are you a fool to do that, etc., etc.? And therefore, what thoughts get converted into words depends upon what thoughts we decide to nourish. And it is those thoughts which we nourish, we decide to nourish. It is our decision. That those thoughts that get converted into words. Therefore, by controlling the perpetuation of thought, I can control my words. Therefore, I have got a free will over my words that I speak. This is the second aspect. And the third aspect under my control is, it is these thoughts alone later get converted into deeds or action. And therefore, action is the grossest product of the subtlest thought. They've taken the earlier example of the dispute between the spouses. Once, even at that stage, a free will can act. Okay, you said certain things. I don't like it. Stop it. Are you this? Are you that? Etc. And there will be retortion, obviously. But then there you put a stop to it using your free will. But suppose you don't do. You allow that also to escalate. It may even result in a physical fight between the two, beating each other, etc. So a thought which is converted into words can now get converted into an action also. A gross action. And that's why, I said, action is the grossest product of the subtlest thought. Thought is very subtle, but where it leads to, you just see, imagine. Therefore, when the thoughts arrive based on my swabhava, my likes and dislikes, on which I have no control, if I am ready to handle the thought, I can control the resultant action also. And therefore, Krishna says, hey Arjuna, using your free will, you can control the action. Free will can control the words. While free will cannot control the first thought, free will can control the second thought and the subsequent thoughts, and consequently words and actions also. And therefore, Arjuna, let the thoughts come to your mind. You need not feel guilty about it. Do not say, very violent thoughts come in my mind, very dirty thoughts come in my mind, etc., etc. It will come because that they are being generated because of your swabhava. You do not know what was your personality in your previous crores of births. The vasanas which have been collected over the crores of births is what you are today in terms of your thoughts. You have no control over it. So don't feel guilty about it. Let the thought arise. But if I allow the thought to continue, knowing fully well that I don't like that thought, then you should feel guilty about it. Mujhe Swamiji used to say, when the thought arises, you allow it to pass. Don't dwell upon it. The thought arises, then there is something, no, this is not a correct thought I should entertain. Allow that thought to pass. Because thoughts keep on occurring. The more number of times you allow the thought to pass away, the thoughts which you don't want to entertain, being in the spiritual path, You have to have a very good control over how your mind works. We have seen Shama, Dama and all that, right? So once you are aware that this thought has come to my mind, I don't know from where it has come, but it has come. Doesn't matter. I will allow it to pass. Force another thought on the mind. So Krishna says that you have to use your discrimination, your discretion, your Viveka Shakti in order to manage this process. Judge those thoughts and ask the question, are these thoughts worthy of nourishment? And if they are worthy of nourishment, dwell on that. If they are not worthy of nourishment, in the beginning itself, nip it in the bud, as they say. And this is very important, especially when we are trying to practice meditation. Because in meditation, what we are trying to do in the initial stages, we are trying to focus upon an object of meditation, an alambana. Maybe it is, a murti or a shivalinga, whatever it is. When we are trying to do that, the mind, is like a child. They used to say mind is like a monkey. It will jump all around. So many thoughts, which are normally you would not, those thoughts would not have occurred. When you sit for meditation, all those thoughts will occur. And that is where you have to use your discretion. Let the thought occur. You may think, oh, this is disturbing me. I'm not able to do meditation. Doesn't matter. Meditation, you are not, by sitting and closing your eyes, you cannot get into a meditative state immediately. It will take a long time sometimes for you to train the mind to become meditative. It's like a ripple in a lake, which is very, very feeble. But if the ripple of water is fanned, it gradually becomes a small wave, then a big wave. Eventually, it becomes a huge tidal wave. And at that stage, the tidal wave will be totally out of my control. Therefore, referring to the first thought occurring on the basis of your swabhava, he says, Tayoho vasham na agachet. Do not come under the spell of these thoughts. And how do you come under the spell? Only by nourishing them. If you decide not to nourish the unhealthy thoughts, they cannot do anything. And Swami Paramatmanji gives another example. When a feeble flame is there, the wind becomes the enemy of the flame. It can easily put out the flame. But somehow, suppose that flame is nourished into a huge forest fire or conflagration, you will find that the wind does not have the capacity to put out, and therefore the wind joins in further spreading for this conflagration, this fire. So what is the rule? If you cannot fight the enemy, join them. Therefore, what does the wind do? The wind, which was an enemy of the weaker fire, becomes the friend of a stronger fire. Similarly, unhealthy thought also initially is like a flame, and our intellect can handle that. We can allow that thought to pass and refuse to entertain them. But if unintelligently that unhealthy thought get nourished, get fed into an addiction, then the intellect cannot control that. And when the intellect cannot control, the intellect learns to justify all those things that is being done. People who are addicted to smoking, they put up all such arguments, That's how they justify the smoking. They will say, no, if I quit, what if one person quits, it's not going to make any difference. That is the first argument. Because they can't control the habit. And then another argument they say is, So if everyone stops smoking, millions of people employed in this cigarette manufacturing and all, they will lose their jobs, their family will be on the streets, etc., etc. They will convert their smoking action into some very noble deed. They very well know that smoking is not good for their health. First, when they started smoking, first cigarette when they smoked, if they had stopped that at that stage, or somebody had stopped them at that stage, they would not have developed into an addicted smoker. But that did not happen, and now they have become addicted to it. That is what the whole process of thought happens. And therefore, Krishna wants Arjuna. And through Arjuna, he is warning all of us. Tayoho vasham na agache. Do not come under the spell of your swabhava. Do not become a slave to your raga dvesha. Always nip it in the bud, any unhealthy thought. If you fail to do so, it will become your enemy. That's what he wants. And there's a beautiful sloka in Panchatantra which conveys this also. Jatamatram na yashatrum vyadhim cha prashamam nayet mahabalopi tenaiva buddhim prapya sahanyate. What it says, two things must be destroyed in the beginning itself. What are they? Shatru and Vyadhi. Shatru means enemy. If enemy is allowed to grow, then one day he will overpower you. So the Shatru should be destroyed, Jatamatram, as soon as he is born. What is the second thing? Vyadhim cha. A disease also should not be allowed to become serious. Because at the initial stages, many diseases, if they are diagnosed, we have a cure. If we treat them in the beginning stage itself, you can overcome that. But if those diseases go to the second stage, third stage, etc., what will the doctor say? Pray to God and get all the family members. At that stage, even doctors also cannot do anything. Of course, it's a different matter that sometimes in respect of some diseases, we will come to know the seriousness only after it has reached the last stage. There are exceptions to all this. But many others can be controlled as soon as the symptoms surface. So, what is important, where we have to bring in our free will, is very much, illustrated in this sloka. So, we have got the internal enemies, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. They are all Shatravaha, the inner enemies. You need to handle them in the beginning, or else they will become uncontrollable. Tau asya paripanti. Now they are robbers, they are enemies in your spiritual path. They will rob away your peace and tranquility and even your progress in the spiritual path. Therefore, the essence of this sloka is free will is there. The first thought alone is not under our control. The second thought is under our control. The words are under our control. The deeds are under our control. Actions are also under our control. Therefore, use your free will. Choose wisely the thoughts you have to nourish. That is the message of this sloka. Now we'll go to the next sloka. 35th sloka. Excuse me. श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात् स्वधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः परधर्मो भयावहः. अन्वया is स्वधर्मः विगुणः श्रेयान् परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात् निधनं स्वधर्मे श्रेयः परधर्मः भयावहः. Swadharma hai, one's own duty. Viguna hai. Viguna hai here means though improperly performed, Shreyan is better. Paradharma than another's duty, another person's duty. Swanushtitat, properly performed. Nidhanam, even death. Swadharme, in one's own duty. Shreya is better. Paradharma, another's duty. Bhayavaha is harmful. So what here Krishna is advising Arjuna is one's own duty, though improperly performed, is better than performing someone else's duty, even though that may be properly performed. Even death in one's duty is better. Another's duty is dangerous, harmful. So concludes here, Krishna is concluding by advising Arjuna. Arjuna, you have to go by your Prakriti only. Your Prakriti is Rajoguna Prakriti because you are a Kshatriya. Because of that, your thoughts first will come for fighting. But if you are doing that fight for the purpose of dharma, allow that thought to continue. Active thoughts are natural to you, and therefore also your life should be activity-oriented life. These activities, of course, as I said, can be dharmic or adharmic. Whenever there is a tendency for adharmic activity, nip it in the bud. Whenever there is an interest in dharmic or legitimate activity, you have to go according to that. Therefore, you have to respect the Prakriti, you have to respect Dharma, and whatever falls within Dharma and Swabhava, follow that. Therefore, your thoughts, words, and action should be in keeping with your Prakriti, and also it should be in keeping with Dharma. They are legitimate and you can encourage them. If your mind is activity oriented, Veda says be active. Why should you stop? Go according to your Prakriti, but let that be in keeping with Dharma. Your life's journey should be governed by two principles. One is personal desires, Swabhava, and also what is Dharma. And that is called Swadharma. When you are leading your life according to your Prakriti, within the confines of Dharma, that is called Swadharma, a course of life which is governed by propriety and Swabhava. And here Krishna tells Arjuna that Swadharma is important even if it is not perfectly performed. He says imperfectly performed Swadharma is better than perfectly performed Paradharma, somebody else's duty. And this is illustrated by a nice story. A person who has a very rich person, a huge house. One day he was to go to some other place by air. He want to take a flight. And when he was about to leave the house, the watchman came running and says, "Sir, please do not go today. Do not go by flight today because I had a dream in which I saw your plane was crashing." Early morning time, that was his dream. Early morning dream. And there is a belief that early morning dream will generally come true. Many people believe it. Therefore, listening to this watchman, this person felt that there must be something, so he cancelled his trip. And strangely enough, the plane in which he was to fly met with an accident. Therefore, by avoiding travel, this person was saved. Watchman was very happy and he expected that this person will reward him. So the next day, this owner, he called the watchman and said that you have really saved my life and I am going to give you a cash reward. Here is some money I have given you. Okay, please take it. And I am also going to dismiss you from service. So he gave him some money as reward and also dismissed him from his service. The watchman was shocked, wondering why he was dismissed. He was dismissed because when the watchman said that he had a dream, what did it mean? Even though the dream was very good dream, very useful dream, it meant that the watchman was sleeping during his duty. It was not the job of watchman to sleep, have dreams, and thereby save the life of the master. It was a perfect case of paradharma. His swadharma was to keep awake all night and secure the house. It's a different matter that this time the dream happened to be something which saved the master. But if the watchman is actually used to sleeping during his duty hours, what will happen? And therefore he says, paradharma bhayavaha. Therefore he was dismissed. Therefore, perfect paradharma is inferior to an imperfect swadharma. And Krishna says, swadharme nidhanam shreya. Even death while performing swadharma is welcome, it is better. Whereas paradharma bhayavaha. So paradharma is dangerous for oneself. It is harmful to the society also. Because one person violates swadharma, and the problem we have seen, isn't it? Yadyada charati shreshtaha. One person who is actually a leader in the society, he leaves his swadharma and performs paradharma, everyone will follow him. One person jumps the red signal, everyone behind him will follow suit because human mind is sheepish. So one person violates swadharma, everybody will violate and there will be utter confusion in the society. And therefore Krishna says violation of swadharma should be avoided. And Arjuna, your swadharma as a Kshatriya is fighting a dharma yuddha. Taking sannyasa is paradharma for you at this stage. Stick to your swadharma. With this conclusion, the Karma Yoga topic is over. Krishna has told whatever he had to tell Arjuna. Now Arjuna raises a question for which Krishna will give a beautiful answer. I think we have time to read the question, but explanation we will see in the next class. Okay. Arjuna uvacha atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. This is a question, a very relevant question which will occur in all our minds when we hear all these things. Krishna will give a beautiful answer to that in the following slokas. We will stop here, continue in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Namaskaram, Guruji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Namaste, Guruji. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskaram, Guruji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Yes.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om. Tell me.
I have a question now. It was a very wonderful session as usual, and you started off explaining about the free will. Fantastic. And prior to that, I want to ask one question. We use the word like Ishvara, Bhagavan, Daivam, etc. for representing God. Okay. Are they all Sanskrit words? And what are the meanings of it? If you can tell.
See, they're all Sanskrit words.
Okay.
Bhagavan, Bhaga Asya Asti Bhagavan, right? So Bhaga means there are sixfold virtues, which is explained in the Shastras, right? I have talked about it in earlier also, if I remember, both in Viveka Chudamani class and this class also. What does the Bhagavan means? Then Ishvara is one aspect of Bhagavan, which is Aishwarya.
Okay.
That is Aishwaryam is Ishwarasya Bhava Aishwarya. So Ishvara also, Aishwarya means what? Prosperity, everything, because everything belongs to Bhagavan, right? Then Daivam. Normally Daivam is derived from the word Deva.
Oh.
So Deva also is referring to one of the aspects, that is the powers of Bhagavan.
Okay.
That's why we say Varuna Deva, all these devas are there. So many devas are there, right? That's why they say 33 crore devas are there in our Sanatana Dharma. And what those devas represent, each deva represents a particular cosmic power. And the totality of the cosmic power put together is what we call Ishvara or Bhagavan. And that is why in our culture, we don't say a Bhagavan is sitting somewhere and he is going to do, all this ruling over this world and all that. It is said at a stage, in the Puranic stage.
Okay.
In the Puranas, they are said, because Puranas are meant for, people who are very, I would call spiritually not fully developed, rather. They're just, entering into spirituality, religion and all. The Purana stories are meant for them. They are more entertaining than having material, spiritual material in them. There you talk about Kailasa, Vaikunta and things like that and all that. But according to Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, there is no Vaikunta, there is no Kailasa and all that, right? Even Swarga and all is all negated, rather.
Okay.
Our aspect of Ishvara is the entire world is Ishvara. Every power is an aspect of Ishvara. I am Ishvara because I have also got some powers. That is the culmination of Vedanta's understanding. Right? So different words are used to highlight different aspects, but they all mean the same thing only. Right? That is how it is. Okay.
Okay. And there is a saying that you are the architect of your own life.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I very much agree, because as we discussed in this class, there are some aspects of our life which we have no control over it. Correct? They will happen because of our past karmas, because of our past vasanas and all. What they do, they present us with certain situations, certain experiences, they present them, our karmas, vasanas and all. Now, how do we respond to that is under our control.
Okay.
So we can say that yes, using our free will, we can actually design our life, and we can, and by that what we mean, not necessarily we are not talking in materialistic terms.
Okay.
We are talking about in spiritual terms, right? Where you can then ask me, no, even if you decide to become an IAS officer, or you become like, all these Elon Musk and all that, can you become? That is not, we are not talking in those terms rather, because we don't consider spiritual materialism at all as important. Materialism is required only to the extent we have to feed our day-to-day living, our responsibilities, which is their family and all that, to feed them and all that, have a house for living, put dresses for wearing, right? Beyond that, any amount of money you have in your bank account, in your investments and all, what they are going to do, they are only going to create more and more mental torture, mental stress for you. Even if you keep a lot of money at home, always night you will be, small sound comes, you will think that some burglar has entered. You won't get proper sleep also. So from a spirituality angle, we don't give importance to materialistic achievements at all, beyond that which is required for our minimum living, right? We talk in terms of spirituality. We can have full control in how we want to proceed in this spirituality life, even though initially many people may not be inclined, rather, right? But once you are presented with an opportunity, how do you actually take that opportunity and convert it into your architecture for your life? That is under your control. And that is what we have seen in respect of all the gurus, all Mahatmas and all that. Puja Swami Dayananda Saraswati himself, till the age of 32, in fact, he was just, somebody like you and me, working in a press and, doing some, journalistic work and things like that and all. He chanced to come on Swami Chinmayananda, and that too, thanks to his cousin with whom he was living in Chennai. That cousin was very spiritual guy. He told Swamiji, why don't you come with me? I'm going for this lecture of Swami Chinmayananda. And he said, I'm not interested in all that kind of a thing. It's all the sannyasis are all humbug, bogus people and all that. All this Puja Swamiji himself has told us when we were studying, Then he said, okay, I will come along with you today, but don't insist every time I should come. So he went there. Then he went there, and when he listened to Swami Chinmayananda, whatever he said appealed to him. Then he started buying Vedanta books and things like that and all, and started studying. The more he studied on his own, the more confused he became. And Swamiji says, I had become convinced that Vedanta doesn't work, and I threw away all the books. This all happened rather, right? Then again, that friend insisted, no, this is not going to work like this. You can't do self-study. If you are interested, you should go and do that. I mean, things developed, and then automatically he got an interest. He became a Shishya of Swami Chinmayananda, and then he joined. Then Swami Chinmayananda one fine day called him and said that tomorrow you are going to become a sannyasi. So he gave him sannyasa diksha. That is how Swami Dayananda Saraswati, became architect of his own life, and you see where he reached.
But can't we say that it was a blessing or a grace which led him to this path?
See, grace is always there. But the problem is whether we understand that grace, we make use of that. In fact, there's a beautiful story in one of the Puranas, Parvati asked Shiva that you are supposed to be the master of this world and all that. Then why are you making so many people poor and all that? People are dying, hungry, without food, etc. and all that. Shiva said it is all their own karmas, right? My grace is there for everybody. Okay. No, you are just giving me excuse and all that. You prove it. So Shiva said, okay, I will prove it to you. Now there was one person, a poor guy, he was walking in a forest. So Shiva told Parvati, you see that person is a poor guy, he is walking in the forest. Now I am going to shower my grace on him. I am going to shower a lot of gold coins on him. Right? In front of him, I will shower. Then he will become very rich. So Parvati said, okay, very good. That is very nice. Then this fellow was walking. Suddenly he was thinking, this person, the poor guy was thinking, you see how this world is. I am very fortunate that I have got 2 eyes, ears and all. I am able to walk. I am able to actually earn my living and all, whatever it is, little bit and all. I think of the poor people who do no eyes, though they can't even see anything, how they will lead their life and all that. He was thinking, very sympathy with that. Then he said, let me actually experience how those blind people, eyesight challenged people live. So he closed his eyes and he started walking. And at that time, Shiva showered all the gold coins. He didn't see them. He walked past them and went away. So Shiva told, you see, this is what it is. My grace was there. My grace is always there. But it is his own karma. At that time, the thought occurred to him. I didn't put that thought into his mind that I should close my eyes and walk. So he missed that. So grace will always be there. How we make use of that grace. Because how the grace comes to us in the form of opportunities presented to us. And how we actually evaluate those opportunities, how we actually respond to that opportunity, how we actually encash those opportunities is purely depending upon our free will. We can decide. So these are all things that we have to understand, that whenever something happens, it is Ishvara's grace only is. In fact, many times, something happening to us, we may think that it is something bad which is happening. I got personal experiences. 3 years I spent in my life when I was in my 20s preparing for IAS examination. I wanted to become an IAS officer. I mean, I used to work when I couldn't take off and all because my family circumstances was required that I should earn, right? My father's salary was not very great and all that. We were basically in the sort of economically challenged family only. But I wanted to become an IAS officer. So I put everything. Then I went for the last attempt, third attempt, I went for interview also in IAS, right? Passed the written exam and all that. And interview also, I got good marks. But in the final list, I did not make the grade. I didn't get IAS. And those days, there were only 3 chances given to people. Then I felt really as if the whole world has crashed. God has been very unkind to me, right? He somehow become, I have done so much of hard work and all. Even doesn't have this much of empathy for me to at least, if not a class 1 position, a class 2 position I could have got. I got nothing. Then what happened? Okay, this is over now. Now my IAS ambition is finished. I was actually a clerk in Government of India at that time, working in the central government, right? Now what should I do? Then I see how the grace worked. This was the year 78, all this happened, I couldn't make the... In 1979, the Banking Services Recruitment Board was set up by the government, and they made recruitment of probationary officers in all nationalized banks through common entrance examination held India-wide, open competition examination. So I thought, okay, IAS though I couldn't get to, let me at least become a banker. So I appeared in that examination. That was a decision taken by me. Instead of, okay, everything is lost, sitting and crying, I said, let me appear in that examination. And you won't believe this, Girishji. All studies which I made for my IAS became
Okay.
very helpful for this. And immediately, first attempt, I got a job in the bank. In Canara Bank, I became an officer, probationary officer. Right? Now you see, at that time when I didn't make the grade in IAS, I felt it was really my life is gone and everything is finished. Today, when I look back, whether IAS was better or banking career was better, I will close my eyes and say banking career has been excellent for me. It has given me all that I need in my life, more than what I need in life. If I had been an IAS officer with my kind of a personality, I don't know whether I would have been able to even work there or not. It requires a separate swabhava to become an IAS officer. So when we look at our own lives, we will find that many times what we think is a failure actually is a grace, is a blessing, because God knows that if you go here, you will be doomed. So I am showing you a different route. So that is how we have to take everything in life positively and then go by that. And it should be dharmic rather. That is the outline. Everything should be dharmic, proper, and nothing hanky-panky deals.
Agree.
That is
Thank
what.
you.
Okay, Hari Om. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Hari Om. Lataji.
Pranam Guruji. Thank you very much for the session. I have the two basic, quite simple questions actually. One is regarding the based on the shloka. Sorry, not this. This is regarding controlling the thought, not to entertain the thoughts. Thought is the first thing that happens, and then arrival of the thought, you cannot control. It depends on your vasanas and likes and dislikes, and then whether what you do with these thoughts, whether you allow them to persist or whether you nip them in the bud, that's under our control by self-will, and so that you can have control over the action as well. So the whole thing happens so quickly, and we don't even know whether that's it's gone through this process. We think it just happens spontaneously, isn't it? But this control thing, being mindful and then controlling them, or nipping, not entertaining them. So this applies only to the negative thoughts, right, Guruji? Or is it even to positive thoughts, we have to be mindful of them and then before you express?
Adharmic, you can call it.
Adharmic ones.
Adharmic thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. Because I think it is my communication. I think at times I've got into problem by expressing positive thoughts as well.
No.
Okay.
Adharmic thoughts. So the two
Adharmic thoughts.
aspects, one is the first thought which is coming can be adharmic or dharmic. Correct? Because that is according to your swabhava. It could be adharmic also. But when you pay attention to that thought, what is the nature of this thought? Should I allow it to continue or should I dismiss it now itself? That decision, you use your free will and evaluate it on the basis of dharmic, adharmic. And then you reject the adharmic thoughts and continue with the dharmic thoughts.
Okay. Adharmic, by adharmic, we mean anything that causes pain to others.
Well,
or to, in general.
Anything pain to others, so many.
Lots of things.
When we talk of dharma, what is not good for me, I should understand, is not good for anybody else. Dharma, you can explain in a very simple. What I feel is good for me should be good for everybody. I don't like people telling me lies, so I should not tell a lie. I don't like people harming me. I should not harm somebody else. I don't like people stealing from me, so I should not steal from somebody else. So like that, you can have a full list of what is dharmic, what is adharmic. And the moment the thought comes, I have this list. Thought has come.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thought, please wait. Let me
Yeah,
go
yeah.
through my checklist. Then,
Yeah.
of course, I'm just joking, but this becomes second nature if you practice Shama, Dhamma, Uparama, and all that. When you develop that, those sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, these become second nature. Automatically it happens. It takes time. I'm not that today suddenly you are going to do that. Many times we end up actually nourishing adharmic thoughts also. For a long time, now you had a fight with somebody. Your thoughts will be how to take revenge. Suppose that fellow has told you something in front of everybody, which you feel very sort of put down, right? He has said something which you feel he should not have said, revealed some secret of yours, suppose, let us say, in front of everybody. Now, your thought could be, how do I take a revenge? How do I retaliate? That thought will be very automatic because that is your inherent nature, fighting nature. You don't want to take this. You will justify that fellow is adharmic, so I can be adharmic with him. All these justification can be, thought over that. But your own, okay, like if he has been adharmic, does not mean that I should also become adharmic for that reason. After all, what is there going to happen? Nothing is going to happen. He has called me some names in front of few people. I don't care about it. I know what I am. So all those things, automatically it will, those kind of systems will get built up. And even whenever that thought comes, the system will throw the thought out. That is awareness. You have to build that system in your thought process, by which this filtration process will automatically happen. You won't take even a second to do that. Like a computer, I mean, before you realize things happen.
Yes. Yes.
That's how it is.
Thank you very much, Guruji. For then I have this another question, which is Swadharma. The Swadharma is, as you earlier mentioned, doing what you like within the purview of Dharma is Swadharma. Am I right in?
Yeah.
But so our Swadharma differs in depending on the different roles that we are having, like as a wife, as a professional, as a daughter, as a mother, as a friend. The Swadharma differs.
Swadharma differs, but you must be very clear. What is the Swadharma as a mother? What is the Swadharma as a doctor? What is the Swadharma as a husband? What is the Swadharma as a wife? All that you must be very clear. Right? And that is why, the confusion is caused in the society by this paradharma only. Everybody doing everybody else's job. Just imagine you are working in a company. There is a CEO, there are general managers, then there are managers, then there are officers, then there are clerks. Right? Everybody has got a defined role in the organization. And the organization works smoothly because given that defined roles. Everybody has to perform his Swadharma within the confines of whatever he is supposed to do. Now imagine that one manager starts doing the work of the CEO or starts doing the work of a general manager. What will happen to that company? Seeing him, everybody else will do. Oh, he has done nothing happened to him, let me also do. So this Swadharma concept, in fact, as people who are in the Grihastha life, we have no awareness also of this Swadharma. In fact, at one point in time, that was awareness. Now, even in a family, what is the role of a father? What is the role of a mother? What is the role of children? What is the role of grandparents? Everything is very well defined. If everybody performs their roles, their Swadharma, there will be no conflict in the family. All conflicts arise because everybody is trying to perform somebody else's role. So this Swadharma and Paradharma, he will talk more about this. Krishna is going to talk about Swadharma and Paradharma. But today, the situation Krishna is facing is Arjuna is bent upon doing Paradharma, not Swadharma. His Swadharma is to fight this Kurukshetra war, whereas he is talking about taking sannyasa, becoming spiritual, and doing all those kind of things, which at this stage for Arjuna is a paradharma. That is what he is warning Arjuna, don't do that. So this Swadharma also, this topic of Swadharma is a very, very vast topic rather, right?
Yeah.
So, but very broadly put, we can say, if everybody sticks to what he is supposed to do, like in an organization, this functioning will be smooth. Otherwise, there will be conflicts, whether it is a family, whether it is a society, or whether it is a nation rather. That will certainly end up like that rather.
Okay.
You're right. You said that we have to see what is my Swadharma as a mother, what is my Swadharma as a father. Saying that as a father, I should take care of my child, I should advise my child, I should, I should know when that Swadharma can become Paradharma. Because once the child has grown up and gets married, then there your Swadharma stops. No more advice. You give advice to him, there will be fight. Him or her. Right? So you must have that discretion, that Viveka Shakti, when to stop. I mean, it's not a Swadharma means whole life it is going to be a Swadharma. Your Swadharma also can keep on changing rather. Isn't it? At one stage, when I am a Grihastha, there is a Swadharma. Suppose I actually decide to take sannyasa. For example, I'm saying, as a sannyasi, my Swadharma will be different than the Swadharma of a Grihastha. So, when we are talking of Swadharma, it's a very vast topic. We will be discussing more and more and more as we go along. Rather. Krishna has just introduced that Swadharma here. That's all. You just introduced to Arjuna. Be stick to your Swadharma, Arjuna. Don't go to Paradharma. That is what he has said. We'll see a lot more of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Premaji, nice to see you after some time.
Yes, Guruji, things are settling down a little bit. So it's, I do listen to all the classes,
Okay.
but it has not been possible to be attending it in person. So today it is possible.
Yeah.
And I don't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, now I can.
Okay.
I was thinking about the force of the vasanas and the power of our need. The vasanas are driving unconsciously and consciously our need and our ideas of what is ideal for us or what is best for us is also camouflaged. We don't know. That accounts for I want to be an engineer and you don't get it. And then you have to switch to become an accountant, and that accountant, you adjust and adapt to that. But it depends on the capacity of the person to switch.
Yeah.
That's one. Second thing is not understanding your Swadharma. If you look at it as just a livelihood, it's something to have my Artha and Kama taken care of. That understanding is not there when in your youth. Okay, so another idea is when the first thought comes, to move from that and not repeat it so it doesn't become a habit and a force. So all put together, when the Gita says that not inspired but moved by the forces of nature, impelled by the forces of nature, we are slightly helpless and slightly able to see clarity and take the distance. Now for a person, we have our roles in our life, which is our Swadharma. But in the process of the Swadharma, we choose to have careers, we choose to have other activities like, depending on where you're living and where you are working, etc. Does that conflict with Swadharma? Does it conflict with the concept of what I'm saying?
As long as it is within dharma, within the contours of what is dharma, what is right. See, there are two levels in which you can see. First of all, you understand what your role is, right? Even when you are actually working in an organization, or as an accountant or whatever it is. Now, the Swadharma goes along with what role you are performing, as I just told Lataji also, right? If you are a mother, your Swadharma is different. If you are a father, your Swadharma is different, right? So, to the extent that whatever role that you are performing, in that role, if you understand what your Swadharma is, and as long as that Swadharma is within the contours of Dharma, you can perform that. Now, at a very higher plane, whether say that a Brahmana, what is a Swadharma, a Kshatriya, what is the Swadharma, is a very higher plane. That's a different topic altogether, because today we have come away from all those things. So there is no point in discussing that, right? Now you say that no, you are born a Brahmin, but even somebody is born in a Brahmin family, his asanas will dictate what his nature is, isn't it? He could be a Brahmin family, could be a fighter, rather actually born with lot of Rajoguna predominance. So for each and everything, he will take up a sword and start fighting with all the family members, with everybody in the society.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So that is a different discussion altogether, whether Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. But let us forget all that. Practically, we find ourselves in a situation, whether it is chosen by us or not chosen by us, right? That is not good. Whatever situation we find ourselves, on that, if we apply our mind, understand what is my Swadharma, what is it that I am supposed to do in this, instead of doing somebody else's work, what I am supposed to do, and as long as that is dharmic, I continue to do that. There will be no conflict within ourselves, nor any conflict with the unit, the social unit or the family unit, or where there will be no conflict. Conflict always arises because we try to perform paradharma. That is where.
Could you explain doing somebody else's?
Yeah, I can explain. Of course, I should be pardoned for this example which occurs in my mind. Once upon a time, maybe centuries ago, in this thing, the family concept was actually a concept of delegation of authority and delegation of duties and delegation of powers. Every entity in the family had a particular role to perform. And there was no concept of this role is superior, this role is inferior, because for the family to run properly, every role was important. Sorry? Anybody said anything? Sorry. So every role was important. So depending upon the capabilities, capacities, inherent nature, because above all these vasanas and all that, there is something called a man, woman. The natures of a man and woman are different. Women are more sympathetic, lot of compassion is there in women, more care, lot of what you call tolerance in women. Men don't have those capabilities. Whereas men are more muscular, they can actually withstand lot of workload and things like that and all. So there was a system which was devised, though it is not a highly purely, I would not say watertight compartments, but by and large, a system was a man will be the bread earner of the family. A woman will be the one who will take care of the entire household, and which includes everything like, whatever is required to be done in the house, like cooking and cleaning, maintaining the cleanliness, bringing up the children, and all those things, taking care of everybody's needs and all that. So man will be away from the house for few hours in a day, and the women will be in the house and doing everything. And the family was running smoothly. How the children also were to be brought up and all, there was a consensus among the man and wife. Right. And generally, because the man was the one who would be elder in age to the woman, right? That was the system at that time, rather 5, 6, 7 years or even 10 years elder. So the man was considered to be more experienced in terms of worldly life. So he will actually, his advice will be taken by the woman to do all the things which are required to be done from a worldly angle. Whereas she will not take the advice of the man how to cook, how much salt to put in the food and all that. That man will not interfere in that, right? Woman will not interfere in the other thing. But when it comes to worldly matters and all that, she will take the man's advice, and then how to bring up the children. They may have different ideas, but then woman will be being more soft. She knows more than a man how to bring up the children. Man will not interfere in that. Man will say, okay, children are your responsibility. You bring them up the way you want. Man will enter the scene of children only when it comes to their education. Right? If there is a male child, then he will get more active in that, because he wants the male child to pursue his own profession. If he is a teacher, he wants the child to also become a teacher. If it's a priest, he wants the child to become a priest. So a male child, he will actually have a little more say than the girl child. This was the system which was prevailing. Everybody was doing their swadharma, and there was peace, conflictless family, everything. Then came changes in the society, right? The female felt they were inferior being confined to home, even though originally there was no such concept of superiority, inferiority, right? Very clear delegation was there. Now they started working, they started going out. So when you do the man's job, when you are doing a paradharma, right, then whatever is the result of that paradharma, consequences will flow. When you go to the office, you also work for 10 hours or 9 hours and then come back home, you are tired. Who is there to give you a cup of coffee? And you tell the man, give me a cup of coffee. The man doesn't know how to prepare coffee. He has never been to a kitchen. He will first question is asking, where is the kitchen, so that I can go and prepare the coffee. All these things will start one by one, one by one. And when the children see this, they'll say, this fellow is not doing what he is supposed to do. That woman is also not doing what she is supposed to do. Why should I do what I am supposed to do? I will also do what my vasanas are dictating. So the whole breakdown of the system happens when this swadharma is not stuck. I am not criticizing that women should not go for job and things like that and all. I am just objectively saying what happened to the family. And this has happened, this started happening in the Western society long ago. In our society, it is now slowly creeping in. This generation, our next generation and all, it has started happening. And we will also see more family breakdowns and separations and things like that and all, because of what? This swadharma, paradharma business. That's all. And Krishna has warned us 5,000 years ago, don't do this. But who are we to listen? That is what it is. I hope they.
So in the present, it is a conscious delineation of what is swadharma and what brings harmony and keeps everything moving smoothly. Before it was delineated as a way of living. Now we make choices to make it consciously.
Yeah, consciously means, I mean, we don't know whether it is consciously or unconsciously, but those walls have broken down. The Swadharma walls for individuals have broken down, and everybody is doing everybody else's job. And hence there is a total confusion everywhere. That's what is happening. And we see this happening in everything, I mean, political parties, we see some people will just talk out of turn, something they will say will create a problem for the government rather. It may not be his job to say those such things rather, right? Because he knows that once I am a member of a parliament, what is my swadharma, he should know. Once I belong to a particular political party, what is my swadharma, I should know. So there are certain rules that he should follow. Personally, he may like it or he may not like it. That's a different thing altogether. But his swadharma is what? Overcoming that, what you understand your role, perform what you have to do within the dharmic, so that you don't create a problem for everybody else. That is actually almost gone now. All those things, barriers are broken. Everybody wants to become a prime minister of the country. Everybody wants to do everything rather I'm talking about politics, right? So this is where the society is, and this is we can just explain it away. Kali Yuga, it will be like that only. So we can just settle it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Anybody else? Any other question? Okay, we will close the session. We will continue next Saturday rather. Hari Om. Thank you very much.
Hari Om, Guruji. Namaste.
Thank you, Guruji. Hari Om.
Thank you, Guruji. Namaste.
Namaste.